Welcome to Behind the Headlines for the week ending July 24th, 2020. I'm Michael Curran from the Ottawa Business Journal. This podcast is a weekly look at the top local business stories from Ottawa, Canada. And once again, I'm joined by two of our Ottawa Business Journal editors, Peter Kavesi and David Sally. In this week's podcast, we'll look at a major Ottawa-Gatineau attraction that is gambling on a reopening, a massive development in the city's east end that could bring more attention to a somewhat forgotten part of the city, and also how the rubber tire market is breathing some life into local hotels. So let's go behind the headlines right now with story number one. Dave, we're going to start off with a look at the Hilton Lac-Leamy casino. It opened after many weeks, months of being closed. Tell us about some of the changes that visitors to the casino might see these days.
Yeah, absolutely, Mike. As you know, probably most of you in Ottawa here have been to the casino at least a few times. Well, as Catherine Schellenberg, the casino's spokeswoman, told me this week, it's open again as of yesterday, but it's not the casino that people are used to, that's for sure. There have been a lot of changes, a lot of new measures put into place to ensure the safety of customers and employees alike. So the biggest one off the top, you want to go I feel like playing the slots, drive over, want to walk in, well, you're probably going to be out of luck. They are taking advance reservations online, and if there are spaces available, they'll let walk-ins come in, but that is by no means a guarantee, simply because one of the other big changes is the casino has now been divided up into 4 distinct zones that can hold a maximum of 250 people each. You cannot move between the zones. You're given a special barcode that gets scanned when you go in the door. You park in a specific parking lot for each zone, and you're expected to stay in that zone for the remainder of your stay. So that's one big change. Now, and each of the zones has different, one of them is reserved for table games, one is only for slots, and the other 2 have a mix of both. But once you're there, you've got to stay there. So there's only going to be 1 restaurant open for grab-and-go food. All the other bars and restaurants are closed for now. There's no time limit on the reservations, but Schellenberg says they're not encouraging people to just come in and hang out. They want you to, do your gambling, spend your money, and make way for other people. Other things that you'll see, you cannot touch the slot machines anymore. You'll be given a rubber tip stylus that you use to touch it. There will be separation of 2 empty machines in between each machine available for customers. At the gaming tables, customers can't handle cards or chips. So that's all on the part of the dealer. And as such, Keno and poker will not be offered for now, simply because, of course, you need to hold your cards close to your chest, so to speak, if you want to play those games. So those are off limits for right now. And the other big change, normally the casino is, of course, open 24 hours a day. Now it will be closed for 5 hours between 4 and 9 a.m. every day to allow for staff to come in, give it a good deep cleaning and disinfecting.
So, Peter, that is definitely not your typical casino experience. No poker, places between people playing the slots, so on and so forth, having to stay in certain areas. What do you think are some of the risks in reopening a facility like this, Peter?
Well, ultimately, the casino was really sort of marketing to its visitors an experience. And so the big question is, once they change that experience, how will visitors react? And will they still sort of embrace this new experience that the casino is offering? Early indications have suggested that there is pent-up demand. When we touched base with the casino earlier this week, they said half of the available slots over the next 3 weeks have already been grabbed up, and they were fully booked for this coming weekend. So we'll be really keen to see if that trend, that demand does continue for the coming weeks.
Yeah, it's something to watch as we try to return a little bit to to a normal situation. Peter, we're going to move on to story number 2. This one really caught my eye. Very interesting and big development pitched just kind of east of Saint Laurent Shopping Center in a neighborhood often called Cyrville. Tell us about what this big property proposal entails.
So this property is on Ogilvie Road, just northeast of Cyrville Road. Mike, I know you know the landmark that always comes to my mind. It's the Ogilvie Mandarin, where we often go for lunch when we're working together out on Canatech. Potentially, maybe just slightly more significant, though, is that it's just down the road from the Cyrville LRT station, which, of course, is an asset that's only going to grow in popularity as stage 2 of the Confederation line is built out. So what's being proposed is, as you said, it's a really large-scale development, 1.3 million square feet of apartment and hotels. That's going to be spread out across 4 buildings. That includes 3 towers of between 25 and 36 stories, as well as an 8-story hotel.
Fascinating, and an area that's been, as I mentioned before, a little bit underdeveloped or forgotten. Really interesting idea behind the development. The hotel part threw me for a little bit of a loop, but that's just given the pandemic size that we're in. Dave, this isn't the only development that's happening, of course, in that part of the city along the LRT. Tell us about whether this might be a catalyst for even more development to come.
Well, yeah, absolutely, Mike. A lot of people I talk to think it will be. And just to mention, I've been to obviously the Cyrville LRT station. I haven't checked out Mandarin yet, Peter. So I'll have to get there someday. But in the meantime, we're already seeing in the general vicinity. We've got just down the road at Blair Station, RioCan, Killam Apartment REIT have already teamed up on. As anybody who's driven by, they've seen the Frontier apartment high rises out there. The second tower is just about finished. You've got Colonnade Bridgeport, an Ottawa company, looking to partner with a Toronto-based group near the Via Rail Station on a mixed-use urban village, as they call it. You've got the Feds looking to partner with a private sector developer to build a mix of office space, residential units, parks, and shops near Saint Laurent. Well, one of the men behind the Cyrville development, Denny Archambault, says, hey, if all this stuff can happen, why not Cyrville too? I mean, he said originally when they bought the property, they were proposing townhomes. That was about 8 years ago. Then they looked and realized, well, wait, we're only 400 meters from what's going to be a light rail station that's going to serve thousands of people every day. So the way to go, and the city agreed, was this transit-oriented development, more intensification. That's why they switched to this proposal. He sees it as a winner. He says the apartments, rental apartments were the way to go because he thinks it's going to attract younger tenants who don't need to have a car. They can still maybe work downtown, or hey, if they're working from home, they can get downtown in less than 10 minutes on the train. Emily McClelland is a commercial real estate advisor at Colliers International. I spoke to her the other day as well. She's particularly motivated to see this neighborhood developed as well because she lives near this proposed development, and she says she drives around and sees all this potential for development in the area. Lots of vacant land, but just nothing being done with it. As she puts it, basically all you see is gas stations. So she really thinks that there's a lot of untapped potential in this area to really kind of take advantage to proximity to public transit here and make this kind of kind of maybe an up and coming neighborhood for this type of mixed use projects.
I agree with her take. Gas stations, brownfields, and certainly lots of room for potential. The thing that really interested me is in all those projects that you mentioned was the confidence that these developers are exhibiting at this time to make this level of investment, and the confidence that LRT will run on a regular basis. That is, but let's leave that. That's a whole other story. So let's move on to story number 3. And Dave, we're going to start with you this time. We all know that one of the most severely impacted segments of the local economy are hotels, and many of them are open now. And many of them are seeing a bit of a recovery in terms of occupancy. Dave, tell us what's going on.
Yeah, well, Mike, I think the operative word there is a bit of a recovery. I did speak to a few hoteliers this week. One of them being Wayne Day. He is the new general manager of the Hilton Garden Inn and Homewood Suites. Those are the properties that, as I'm sure most of you will remember, the old Delta on Queen Street. Well, a couple of years ago, Morguard redeveloped that property, brought in Hilton to take over as the brand there, and they've been doing a great business there at that property. Previously, typically with an occupancy rate of around 85%, even early in the year. Then suddenly the pandemic hit and all that business evaporated. They were below 10% for a long time, barely a couple of dozen of the 350 rooms being occupied. Well, I talked to Day the other day, and he said, he said that in the last few weeks, they've been running it closer to 40%. Now that's still a long way from what you would typically see in the summer tourism peak of July and August, in the 80%, 90% range. But he said it's better than he had hoped for. I mean, really. And he said that was largely due to a couple of things. They've got a few corporate bookings that have brought kind of extended stays, including a group from Amazon that's doing training at their Boundary Road warehouse. But he's also, interestingly, seeing an uptick in day trippers, if you will, the people hopping in their cars, coming in from Montreal, Toronto, places like that. People wanting to get out of the city, wanting to check out at least something that's not in their backyard. And so they're coming to Ottawa, and a lot of them, he says, are bringing their bikes actually to check out the bike trails and just be able to walk around the canal or the Byward Market and check things out, get a bit of a change of scenery. But he says this is also happening last minute. Typically, their booking window would be 3 weeks out. Lately, he says it's been more like 3 days. People just calling, saying, "Hey, have you got a room for tomorrow?" That kind of thing. So he's hoping that bodes that's a trend that'll bode well for the future. But we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, 40%, as we indicated. I mean, it's an improvement, but it's still kind of half the vacancy rate. And Peter, one of the city's most iconic hotels, of course, the Chateau Laurier, the Fairmont Chateau Laurier. Tell us about what things are like there, and maybe a couple other hotels.
Yeah, interesting. It's a remarkably similar story. They're seeing an uptick in travelers. Again, like what Dave mentioned, often from Toronto, Montreal, other markets within driving distance. And they're also reporting that a lot of customers are coming and bringing their bicycles. Across the entire city, right now, we have about 2/3 of the local hotels open, and that's up from about 50% at the depth of the pandemic. Occupancy is standing at about 20%. Good news is that that's about double what it was just a couple of months ago. But again, as Dave mentioned, what we should be seeing around this time is closer around to 80%. So again, we're seeing that uptick in leisure travel, but the landscape does point that it's still a long road ahead for the city's hospitality industry.
Yeah, this is prime time, as you said, Peter, for leisure travel. As we look forward to the fall, we're not that far away from September, October. You start to wonder if there'll be any business-like travel, and I don't know if we can be too optimistic about that. But I mean, we can check in with Ottawa Tourism in coming weeks. So listen, that's all the time we have for today. We would normally give a little bit of a wrap up at this point. I think if we were looking forward, we're looking forward to our vacations, not projects right now. So this show is happening on a weekly basis. We might be taking a little bit of a hiatus, but you can still continue to connect with OBJ. One of the great options is to visit our website at obj.ca. That website's updated throughout the day. That much of that effort's led by David Sally. You can also watch this podcast on YouTube. If you're doing that, please follow us and hit the little bell icon to get notifications about future videos. You can listen to us on Spotify. Just search Beyond the Headlines, and also SoundCloud. That's all the time we have for today. On behalf of Peter Cavesi and David Sally, I'm Mike Curran signing off for Ottawa Business Journal. Please stay in touch.